Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Shooting the Shit with Yankee. As always, I'm Yankee, so let's start shooting. This is one of those cases where I just want to get people's opinions on something. I want to know what your thoughts on or takeaways from the No Kings rallies yesterday were. What did you think? Did you think there's something here to be learned? Did you learn something new? Did you just have something you believed already confirmed? Did you get angry? Did it make you happy? What are your thoughts? What are your takeaways? Do you think there's any lessons could be learned for the gun community? I want to hear what you're thinking. And I will wait and weigh in at the end because I don't want to influence anybody. And I hope some people will weigh in before we're done here. We got a few people weighing in now, but I'm hoping we get a few more before we hit the end. And so you got until I say that's it for us today, or I start giving my opinion to weigh in. But let's see if we get anybody. Now, before we go over here and see what people say, I want to remind everyone, if you want to help support the channel, please go over to TYMPpistolproject.com. There's a link in the upper corner of this video. I think it's this side. You can go over and buy merchandise like the Revolutionary Willie. Mickey Mouse here in his revolutionary gear with his bandoliers and his boots and everything saying revolution. You can go over and get stuff like that, or the first American flag, all kinds of designs I do over there. And I draw all my designs, so they're not clip art like most channels. So, of course, they're also not blood and guts, my cold, dead hand stuff like most channels. I try to be a little more whimsical, a little more positive. So go on over, buy some merch, help support the channel, or you can become a Patreon supporter, a Subscribe Star supporter over there, get yourself patches, get entered into drawings, all kinds of other stuff over there. You can also sign up for TYMPPP or sign someone else up for Handguns for Heroes. So go on over there and help support the channel. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the select all for notifications. You might not get them because we are a restricted channel, but it's worth a try. With that being said, let's get over here and see what other people are saying about our topic today. Edgar Cortez weighed in and said the First Amendment enshrines the right to assemble and protest peacefully. The deployment of military troops in our city is one of the many predicates that justifies these protests. Yes, I'm not a fan of military in our cities, period. I don't like using the National Guard as police. They're only supposed to be there in cases of emergency to when police can't handle what's going on. Police can handle what's going on. There's more than enough police to handle what's going on. They just don't want to. I do think that's a problem. We need to start saying, hey, when people break the law, they should, no matter what side they're on, they should go to jail. And it shouldn't be for 2 hours. It should be until they get a hearing and, turns out whether what they did was bad or not. But don't like the military in the cities. And I especially don't like politicians pretending our cities are on fire so that they can justify their own fascist behaviors. Anyone who is so intense about the president to think he is acting as a king needs therapy. Really, why? Why would anyone need therapy just to speak out against it, against the whole idea? Because there's definitely a lot of things going on that are very non-democratic, let's just say that. So, and there have been for decades. So to pretend like, it couldn't happen in America, it sounds like that's the most surefire way to make it happen in America. Go Shadow. No Kings protest. Weather sucked. Anyone standing out was exceptionally dumb beyond what I see for most protests. I disagree completely. People who stood out in bad weather, if people show up and protest in bad weather, that means they believe in what they're saying. We couldn't get people to show up for gun rallies in good weather. Oh, football's on, or that's I'd have to drive 35 miles to get to that. I ain't doing that. That kind of bullshit. So yeah, to me that makes me think that they meant what they say, that they actually care. Whether you believe what they believe or not, their dedication don't seem to be able to be questioned, not 7 million people. Sean Bain said, I support everybody's right to protest. Well, so do I, 100%. I've proven that in the past. I've always gone and shown that I am an ally to the First Amendment. Whether I agree with what you say or not, or believe in what you want, even if I believe in your end goal or not, when you're exercising your First Amendment rights, if you're being oppressed by police or politicians, I will stand on your side because then it's no longer about your point. It's about the fact that your First Amendment rights are being violated. When people in the gun community were calling for protesters to be bombed from the skies or shot from rooftops, that shows you right there those people don't understand what being an American is. And they're just mouthpieces for power and money, and they need to be fucking pulled out into the street and beaten with clubs. Gerald Cagney. Hi, Grandpa. I sent an email for a pic of my new knife and my new SIG P365 fuse since you won't give me free pistols, you old fart. Well, I'm not just going to give you stuff. You know, that's not what this country is about. Thought we were against freebies. But that didn't have anything to do with the topic, did it? So I read that and I shouldn't have. Mr. Furley weighed in and said, thankful rallies were peaceful and no one was hurt. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Since it was all Antifa and communists and everything, it's surprising that there wasn't any violence. Just goes to show you can't believe what politicians say. Even Fox News, though, I saw I think it was even not OAN. What's the other one? Newsmax was like, yeah, when the press secretary said that all Democrats were violent and that was alienating half of America, that was not a good idea to do. To insult half of all Americans. Remember the deplorables comment? Where's your outrage over that? I mean, over this, it's even worse. Gerald Cagney, although, like I said, I did point out to people, I don't know if it's national news or not, but over in the state of Washington, in the city of Portland, which is right across the river from me, they caught the DOJ and ICE staging a fake riot and filming it. And now they're trying to say, oh, it's all for our training videos. Yeah, really. Gerald Cagney said, I didn't even know there was a protest. Well, you'd have to have your head in a log or something or buried or something to not know. But I guess some people don't know. A lot of people don't pay attention to the news at all. I try not to. But you people keep telling me stuff. You keep telling me stuff. Johnny Mandrick chimed in and said, I think it was pretty impressive to get that many people out. Hopefully a lot of right-leaning people also were there too. If not, you're denying what's happening. Well, I'm betting there's probably were some people that are right of center, probably lots of people that were right of center. Now, not the hardcore right wingers. You know, there's some. I mean, like you saw, there was one video of a guy who they were running up and down the street going, God bless Trump. These white guys, older white guys, and he got his glasses stolen and ended up on his face bleeding. No one hit him or nothing. He fell down chasing the guy. I think someone tripped him at one point. But so there were people out around the protest, but everything I saw that was aggressive was from the other side. I never saw any aggression from the lefties. Let's just say that. I think they were well informed to not give anybody any ammunition, you know. So even if you want to punch somebody in the face, don't wait, because that day you don't want to be seen on camera doing something bad. You know, logistics. Let's see. Let's see. We got Hoosier Viking. I think that might be the last person weighing in is Hoosier Viking. And he says, great to see that people are still free to protest for now. Exercise your rights or you'll lose them. That's true. Exercise your rights or you'll lose them. And believe boy, they are trying to crack down on First Amendment. We see people all the time get fooled by the shit. We see people on the right wing side of the argument saying stuff like, as soon as someone throws a brick, it's over. They should bust them up. You know, rubber bullet time. No. Then you can break up any protest with one provocateur every time. Why would you want to set that precedent? We set the precedent. You should be setting the precedent like we do with guns. You don't demonize guns. If one person does something wrong with guns, you deal with that one person and what they did. Same thing if someone throws a brick in a crowd, you get that guy. And a lot of times in these protests, if someone throws a brick, you'll see everybody grab them and like, this guy just threw that brick. So hand him over to police. I saw that multiple times at rallies I've been at in my day. So Yeah, I don't agree with that. Well, as soon as someone throws a brick, it's over. Now it's a riot. No. It's funny how you don't see a lot of riots, really, to be honest. And I'll segue into giving my opinion here because we're done with everybody else's. Nobody else weighed in. So it's funny how you see such big protests and you don't see all this violence everybody talks about. It's almost like Americans aren't that violent. You know what? Because we aren't. And these things about riots and all this stuff, it's mostly bullshit. It's like they use the same stock footage to make it look like cities are on fire all the fucking time. They not too long ago used footage from riots, George Floyd riots in Atlanta as footage from Portland. I'm like, none of those buildings exist in Portland that you can see in the background. So they play games with people all the time to try to convince them that, we can't have this. It's all riots. Sadly, though, most of the time you see riots, it's got nothing to do with protest. It's got to do with people taking advantage of a situation. And it's generally in low-income parts of big cities where a bunch of angry people don't think past the end of their nose and they think, well, I'm showing them something by burning down the grocery store that my mom shops at every day. The only one that's within 20 miles of her so that she doesn't have to drive all day after work to go to the store, or I'm going to burn down the record store that, my cousin likes to shop at, that kind of thinking. And people are like, well, what are they thinking? Well, they're not thinking. They don't care. They're very short-sighted. And those are not usually the people that, really the people that do think forward don't do that. It's a small percentage of people that engage in that kind of violence. And like I say, it's usually inner city people who are low income, no future, and a lot of them don't want a future other than being violent and everything, because that's all they've ever known. But we should be dealing with those issues and make sure people don't get to be raised like that. But as far as the actual rallies yesterday, the biggest thing that I took away from it is the gun community is doomed. The gun movement is doomed. We could never get that many people for a protest, period. As someone who used to try to organize gun rallies and pro-Second Amendment rallies and First Amendment rallies, we could never, ever even hope to get a response like that, period. We would have big rallies that we would advertise for months at our Capitol, and we'd end up with a spattering of 20 or 30 people showing up. And most of those were to sell T-shirts. So to me, that just showed, and I don't believe all those people are all left of center. There's a lot of right of center people in that crowd that were motivated and got out there, good weather and bad, and stood up and got accounted for. And those are the people that the gun community has spent years alienating. And those are going to be the people that when there's finally a proposed amendment to the Constitution, they're going to tell their representatives, yeah, we need to change the Second Amendment. It's too loosey-goosey. It ain't none of them going to stop to think about the realities of it, because we have failed as a community to mobilize, organize, and include people. We just don't have the numbers. We don't have the reach. We don't have the influence. And I know so many people in the gun community who just sit back and go, who cares? When it comes time, we've got the guns. Well, it doesn't matter. Even if 10% of us rose up, which of the gun community, which isn't going to happen, that'd still only be less than 0.5% of the people. And the police and the powers that be and the National Guards are going to put us down in 2 minutes flat. And unfortunately, everybody we've alienated over the last few decades is going to cheer when they do. I would hope those people that showed up for the No Kings protest would also show up if people rose up against a corrupt government and got shot down in the streets, but I don't think they will. I think they'll see good riddance to those people. So I think that was my biggest takeaway from yesterday's things, how we could never do that. And how these people that are showing up and doing something, those are the people we've spent alienating for the last 20, 30 years. And we need to stop that. We need to start being inclusive. We need to start supporting people's First Amendment rights, not calling for them to be shot with rubber bullets or murdered from the tops of buildings or have bombs dropped on them because you don't agree with what they're protesting about. Because all that's done is make us a lonely little island with nobody supporting us. And that's going to bite us in the ass, because if we ever do have to fight back, we'll be gunned down in the streets by all police, the National Guard, the military, and everybody in the country, 90% of the people will just be like, never liked those guys anyway. So that was my biggest takeaway of how much we have failed as a community over the last few years, because we've allowed the big mouths, the big money, the corporate interests to set the narrative. And unfortunately, the narrative that serves them best is fear and division. And that's what the gun community has become. I've heard from so many people who are like, I used to follow lots of gun channels. Now I only watch yours because everybody else is sucking on that Trump teat or sucking on that big government teat, or, doing that division and fear mongering bullshit, because that's where the money is. And that's our biggest failure. And I think yesterday was a perfect example of that. Those people weren't paid. They were out there because they actually care. And who's going to care when it comes to our issues? Nobody, except for a few of us. And even most of us won't get involved. So that was what I took away from it. Wasn't anything positive. It was how we as a community have failed. So after that bright and cheery thing there, that's going to be it for us today for Shooting the Shit. We'll be doing America Guns and Freedom here in just a minute. So if you got any questions for that, get them in. You can send them to my email, which you can't see right now because I've got this up and that up. So there we go. shootleftstare@gmail.com, or send me a question through the link at the top of the chat window if you want to get entered into the drawings or get your questions answered first, or send me something in the live chat. Just make sure to put at the Yankee Marshal in it. I'll try to get to those too. So stick around for that. But for as far as Shooting the Shit's concerned, we're done for the day. So thanks everybody who participated. How about you out in YouTube land? What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section below. If you want to weigh in on in person on one of these topics, come to our live chats. We do them every day at 6 p.m. Hope to see you at one soon. Everybody else, like I said, thanks again. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again.